Hey, what's up, everyone? That's Rick Stojak on the drums. Give it up for Rick, y'all. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks everybody. Welcome.
Welcome back to the Drummers Education Connection. We are live here broadcasting to you. It's Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time on the 20th of June, 2023. We're here as usual just about every Tuesday morning talking about drums and drumming and drum education and performing and recording and the music business and drumsticks and drum heads and all that kind of fun stuff. We get deep into the weeds, right? We love it. We can't get enough of talking about this stuff. There's so much, there's endless topics to talk about. And we're happy to be here every week sharing our wisdom and also our curiosity with you, our community. Speaking of being here every week, we do have a Patreon page, which you can check out. And we would really, really love it if you went to our Patreon page and clicked on a donate button and threw us whatever you can manage, $5, $1, some good advice, whatever you got. Let's keep going.
I need the good advice. Sorry.
You can DM Bart good advice on our Patreon page. Check it out. There's also, we're giving away our stuff as a thank you, our books and videos and stuff. You can get lessons with us, and we really appreciate it if you check that out and became a supporter of the deck. So let's see what else we got today. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to have a roundtable discussion. Oh yeah, we got good things. Well, let's start with good things. That's good, Bart.
Oh yeah.
Before we get into our topic of the day, what's going on for you guys? And that's going good.
Start with Chip. What's good, Chip?
What's good over here? Well, man, I'll tell you what. I've got lessons that I started with a young man who's got a family. His name is Colin. And he asked me the other day, would I be able to teach his sons as well? And I said, sure. And he brought in his sons, and we did lessons with his sons, and everything went well. And his wife was there. And he called me the next week, and he said, would you be okay with teaching my wife? And I was like, absolutely. So I'm teaching a family of 4 every Monday, and it's just like this really cool experience. It's a challenge for me. I'm outside of my comfort zone because everybody's in the same room when I'm doing the same lessons. So they're paying attention, and I'm like challenged as a teacher as to what my curriculum's going to be with each of them. I'm not taking them the same way. I'm going by what their ability is. And each of them are different. They have different strengths and weaknesses. And it's just a great challenge for me. And I'm looking forward to every Monday when I teach them.
That's beautiful.
That's awesome, man.
So
That's
exciting.
so cool, dude.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rick, what's going on that's good for you?
Well, I've got great news. Thank you to Sabian and the Sabian Education Network. They had a little contest for drum teachers. I think you guys saw it, and they wanted to have a survey filled out from students. It was of the younger age group to get their buying habits, social media habits. And the teacher met with the most surveys or students, won the symbol of their choice, and I won it.
Hey,
and
awesome.
And thank you, Joe Bergamini, and thank you, Sabian. This is what I got, guys. 15-inch HHX complex big cups.
What did you say the size was?
They're 15s.
Okay, because I thought you said 16s. They look big.
Yeah. No, they're the 15s, kind of like your groove hi-hats.
Yeah, these are groove hats. These are 15s.
Yeah, you've got those HHX groove hi-hats. Yeah. This is the complex big cup. So that cup, it's unbelievable, man. And the foot, the chick is. So I found my sound. Thank you to all my students, and thanks Joe Bergamini at Sabian Education Network, and thank you to Sabian. So
beautiful.
Congratulations.
I'm in love with my hi-hats.
We can have a show about marrying your cymbals.
Yeah.
Don't forget to wipe those down, Rick. Wipe them down.
Yeah.
Bart, what's going on for you?
You know, I got a couple really cool things, and believe it or not, one of them is not drum related. That is happening. I'll start with the drum related one because we're a drum show. I just had a new song come out with my side project, The Ruins, and I didn't play drums on it. I played some percussion on it, and I produced it. But we redid Billy Joel's "Big Shot,"
Mm-hmm.
and my dear friend Dusty Watson played drums on it. Dusty's played with Lita Ford and Dick Dale, and he did the drumming on the first Lita Ford record. He played with Dick Dale for 20 years, the Sonics, and now he's kind of got the main chair. He's the guy in Nashville Pussy, and they tour all over the place all the time. And we're good friends. He's past episode of Deck. You can check him out. Matter of fact, I'll put the Chip, if you would find Dusty's episode and put it down in the comments if people want to check it out. So I just came out. It is here on Facebook. You can go to my page and go here to the Deck page. You can watch the video. It's kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of old pictures from the 70s, and kind of goes through the song "Big Shot" by Billy Joel. It's doing great, and really excited about that. Then the other thing, this has nothing to do with drumming. My wife Leah is really she got into raising and saving monarch butterflies. Okay.
Wow.
And it's amazing. Literally, I mean, I'm not joking, from the egg, which is like, to say it's microscopic, I mean, you can't even see them. She finds these eggs, goes all the way from a caterpillar into a chrysalis, emerges out a butterfly, and she releases them. And I never knew this. I never paid attention to butterflies, but the monarch butterfly species is really low in numbers, and so I kind of feel that she's doing her job to repopulate the world with monarch butterflies, and it's such a cool thing. I mean, you don't think about it much, but you watch these little guys go from an egg to a butterfly. It's fascinating. And so we released I stood there and watched. She released 8 butterflies this morning, 4 males, 4 females. It was really cool, really very heartwarming to watch. It was a lot of fun, and it's kind of a watching her do her hobby outside of drumming is fun for me. So it's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what about you, Jeremy? What's going on with you, bud?
Hobbies are important, man. That's right. Yeah. That's how we spend our time enjoying the things that make us happy and put some cool stuff out into the world. And good stuff. A lot of good stuff. I had a terrific Father's Day weekend. We went kayaking on Tamales Bay. My son and my wife and I. It was super fun. Went out for oysters afterwards. And then I had a gig on Friday night in Marin. Super fun, well-attended, sort of open block party kind of thing with the Bonafides. That's a New Orleans R&B funk band I play in. And one of the other jazz trios I play in just received a grant to record an album this year. And Mophone, which also received a grant a couple years ago, we are going in to record in August. So very excited about that. We're just putting up the finishing touches on some new tunes, and it's gonna be all original music, and that's super exciting. And I want to report that my son Evan, who I've talked about before on this show, is a really accomplished jazz piano player and singer. He won. So this was really cool. He got invited to sit in with a trio at a show at the California Jazz Conservatory. It was Dick Conti. You guys probably don't know his name, but he's a local elderly jazz piano player who's been around the Bay Area for decades. Sort of old guard, really beautiful player. And his birthday, and his trio was playing, and the director of the program of the conservatory called and asked Evan if he would like to come sit in. As sort of every year there's a young sort of next generation pianist who comes and sits in, and we didn't know this, but he was also turned out to be the recipient of a scholarship as part of that experience. So they invited him, played a tune sitting in with the trio, and then they gave him the scholarship for a class at the CJC, which was just beautiful. It was super, super great. So proud of him.
Wow.
That's
Congratulations,
cool.
man. That's cool as heck,
man.
It was really cool. All right. So today's topic, strength in numbers, and what we got right here, a great example of it, right? Yeah. So we're going to talk about strength in numbers, and not just as it relates to the Golden State Warriors, but just in general.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I had to put that in there.
We're going down.
Strength in numbers, right? There's all sorts of ways in which teamwork becomes really, really important, right? Drums, unless you're Terry Bozzio, you're not touring the world playing solo drum concerts, right?
Right.
You're part of a band, so of course every band is some kind of teamwork involved, and every organization. Anytime you work with other people, you're dealing with other people, and there's strengths and weaknesses, and conflicts and resolutions, and the best kind of teams, the most successful ones, tap into everybody's strengths, right, and let people shine in the way that they are the best able to. You guys, I got plenty of stuff I can talk about, especially related to running a business like BandWorks, and being in bands. But I'd like to kick it to you guys first. Rick, what when we talk about strength in numbers, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
The first thing that comes to mind was our buddy Rich Redmond, the great educator, country drummer with Jason Aldean. I was at a clinic of his, and he talked about how he developed his career by basically teaming up or networking with other musicians. So he had his go-to bass player. So if Rich got called for a session, he would bring that go-to bass player or recommend the go-to bass player. And of course, all the producers, musical directors, like, oh, you guys work together? Great. I know you're going to have some chemistry. Well, they also had a keyboard player, and who was part of the little circle, right? So if the keyboard player got a session, he would ask the directors, musical directors, engineers, artists, do you need a drummer? Do you need a bass player? Basically, they teamed it up to a 4-piece guitar, keyboards, bass, and drums, and they were all bringing each other in on their studio projects. And I do believe that's the core of the Jason Aldean band, which is one of the top bands out there. And so I just thought that cooperation spirit just shined. And so I would say to any drummer out there, this is a drum show, start looking into networking, not just with drummers, start networking with other musicians too, and start recommending your buddies and get tight with them too. So you've got chemistry with them. So what about you, Bart? Did you have I know you've got some great ideas here.
My thing is basically what you just said. I think the deck is a perfect example of that. And when we were talking in our meeting last week, that's how I kind of started thinking about the idea of strength in numbers. And you can apply it to a band, you can apply it to deck, you can apply it to, like Jeremy said, a sports team. There's always a lot of sports teams that have one specific player that stand out, but they don't necessarily win the Super Bowl or win the World Series. It's all about that player. It's the team, the greater sum of the whole, and the coaching as well. And I think that's what we try to achieve here on deck. Last week, behind the scenes thing, we had a meeting on how to make deck better, right? And we all were talking and throwing out ideas and stuff like that. And it's that, again, that greater sum of the whole. I'll give you a perfect example. Rick was talking about how, we need to, maybe be a little bit more at our drum sets for lessons. Well, in my house here, this is my recording studio. And it goes back and forth. Sometimes I'll do the show from right here behind the drums. Sometimes I'll do it from over there. But now I'm going to be doing it from right here. I've got some lighting issues I've got to work out, but I put up some new sound baffles, move my cameras around. And the funny thing is not only has that helped this podcast here today, hopefully look a little bit better. The camera's across the room. You can see my drums, my music stands in the way. I got to find a way for that to get out of here. But I got some lighting issues to take care of, but my students liked it as well. So Rick's suggestion there, again, strength in numbers, not only has helped hopefully today's episode and future episodes, my students, like right away, they're like, whoa, you're way far away. But one of my students goes, you look like one of those YouTubers now, or the gamers. and I do have a sky cam, right? So I'll show you here, and you guys will see the smiley face on my snare drum here in a second. That's my big secret, is my smiley face on my snare drum. But I have, I got my snare drum here. That's my sky cam. But the cool thing is I'm not just kind of, when I go to show something to a student, I don't just have to go to the sky cam or the foot cam now, because you can see me from across the room. So
Yeah.
Rick's suggestion helped me with my lessons. And then last but not least, what I'm gonna echo what Rick said about when he was talking about Jason Aldean. That is such a great story about Jason, and it's legendary in the business. But again, back to D.E.C. I used to have, and you can go listen to it, shameless plug, on YouTube, a podcast called The Bart Factor. And I did a few podcasts here and there, and some of them were video casts. But what we've done on D.E.C. as a group of 4 drummers has far surpassed that. And it's not about me, it's about the 4 of us, helping everybody and trying to make drumming and the drumming community better with the 4 of us working together. Rick has, I think all of us have helped each other out getting students. I know Rick has, I have a student right now, it's been with me for a little over a year, that Rick, turned me on to, and I've done the same thing for the guys. And it's a strength in numbers. It's teamwork. It's about the greater sum of the whole. So there's my little plug there for my, my 2 cents on what it is. So anyway, Chip, take it away. How about you? What about strength in numbers?
You guys,
for you?
I just wanted to say thank you for everybody who's watching us, and thank you for you guys for being here in the D.E.C. I'm just so grateful to be a part of this group. It's changed my teaching. It's helped me become a better teacher. The advice that I've gotten from Rick Stojak has been invaluable as far as the marketing of my business, and finding his book system, How to Build a Drum Groove, has changed my teaching overall. It's just exponentially gotten better and better over the last couple of years since I've known you guys, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's a big thing. As far as strength in numbers goes, I always kind of go back to the fact that, well, let me just say, I was diagnosed bipolar, manic depressive, type 1 years and years ago. I've been seeing a psychiatrist. I'm on medication. I have a support group that I reach out to, that I rely on, that help me live a fulfilled life. If I didn't have that group, I'd be so much more lonelier. I'd be so much more depressed. I'd be so much more on my own, and not as strong. So the strength in numbers is applies to many areas of my life. And I'd be able to reach out to people, and reaching out is one of the best things to do to improve your strength in numbers, is to network, and, getting out of my comfort zone and saying, hey, I've got a problem with this aspect of my career. I'm trying to fix it. I can look at all these people that we have in the Drummers Education Connection Facebook group, and I can go to any one of them and direct message them and say, hey, how's it going? Strike up a conversation. Get to the point and say, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? The answer is almost always yes. Of course, you can ask me questions. And so then I go to the questions about my career, or the thing that I'm talking about, whatever the problem is. And 9 times out of 10, I'll get a different answer from them. And if I do that with enough people, I'm getting more answers to my problems, answers and solutions to my problems. So that, to me, is the best example of strength in numbers that I can think of. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, this is all great stuff, you guys. And I want to double back to a couple of things Rick mentioned and expand from there, or maybe it was Bart talking about sports analogies and teamwork. Well, even individuals who are amazing achievers in all different kinds of fields, sports, art, they've got a team of people that is supporting them, right? Even the individual player, you hear the name and you think, oh, that's the star. But each one of those star athletes has a trainer, a lawyer, a manager, a publicist, right? Every successful band has got a tour manager, a band manager, a publicist, a lawyer, a marketing person, and social media people that work for them. And it's hard to be good at everything. And being good at playing the drums, which is what we do, like that takes a lot of focus and effort and energy, and it's taken up years and years of our lives in a great way. But when you're really good at, you've dedicated all your time to honing your skills and your craft, then there's the other pieces about you're running a business that is, Jeremy Steinkohler or Bart Robley, right? And if you got to figure out some of those pieces yourself to be able to have a web presence and market yourself and have a website and those kinds of things. But then there's some stuff you're just not going to know how to do, and that's what when people come in, that you can surround yourself with to help you achieve your goals and take them along the way, help them achieve their goals at the same time, right? So it could be that you hire a social media person, and this person's trying to make a name for themselves as a social media guru or a social media, consultant. And, you take them on, they help you with your stuff, and then it helps you become more successful, and that helps them become more successful what they do. And then they can market you as an example to get other clients, right? Everything we do involves working with other people, at least for me. I run, in addition to playing drums and teaching drums, I also, many of you know, run this program called Bandworks, which is a school of rock and roll type of program. And we started way before the movie School of Rock ever came out, and way before School of Rock, the franchise, came out. As a matter of fact, right now, this year, 2023, is our 30-year anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Congrats, man.
Congratulations.
It's a big thing. And we're actually going to have a giant bash with a taco truck and a bunch of bands playing and stuff in the fall. But, when we started Bandworks, it was me and a friend of mine, and we were like, hey, let's get some people together to play and jam, and we can coach them a little bit. And, we started with one band 30 years ago, and now we have 35, 40 bands every quarter. And we have summer camps for kids, and we have locations around the Bay Area. And boy, there's no way in hell that we could have ever pulled that off without a team of people.
Right.
Then the team has changed over the years. It's not been the same people all the way through, but it got to a point pretty quickly within a few years where, like, well, we can't teach all the classes anymore. There's just too many classes, right? So we split up. We were teaching them together, co-teaching for years. We split up, started teaching on our own. Then it got again, we got more classes than we can handle. So we started bringing in some new teachers and had to train them and in our values and our program. And then we got so big, we couldn't handle the day-to-day operations anymore. So we hired someone to work from a home office. Then we ended up with an office. Then we had another employee and another employee. And that's kind of how it goes, and then we have people that bookkeeper, lawyer, marketing people. And again, not everyone is part of the team the whole way through, but boy, there's just no way we could pull anything like that off without a team of people working together with the same goal. Yeah, Bart.
It's so cool to hear you say that stuff, because something you just said, not all people will be involved with something all the way through, right? And that's so important. It's not, if you go back to the sports analogy, right? We see the football teams on Super Bowl Sunday out there bashing it out on the gridiron, trying to win the Super Bowl. But we also see the guy that runs out on the field with the Gatorade bottle to squirt water in the player's mouth. And we don't see the guy back in the locker room that's making sure that the helmets are really super shiny on television, right? There's so many people behind a team that wins a Super Bowl champion or a championship game. And I think that sports and music, especially a band and sports, go well together because because of the whole teamwork thing. There are so many times that I've had the great fortune of playing with the Sam Morrison Band for 23 years. Rolling Stone magazine once said that the average life expectancy of a band is 11 months. And I think there's a lot of reasons why bands break up really quickly. I think a lot of it, sometimes they say it's really easy to go, oh, well, everybody has huge egos. Well, there are egos in any business. I don't care if you're a musician or a lawyer, right? There are egos. There are people that have huge egos in any business. It's the ability to work with those things. It's not always going to go the way that you want it. And sometimes I think when your weakness is something that needs to be taken care of, you need to have that active restraint to set it out, you know? And when your strength is something that's needed, we were on our way to a gig last week, and I was driving and the trailer just felt really weird. And we pulled over and found out that one of the main pins that was holding the leaf spring and the axle together on the trailer, one of the bolts was gone. So we had to find a mechanic. We went into the Home Depot. They didn't have the right size nut for the bolt. It was crazy. Everybody came together. Our piano player ended up finding a mobile mechanic. The mobile mechanic got out there. I'm pretty good with a set of wrenches and tools in my hands, but we just couldn't find the nut. So we hired this mobile mechanic. He came out and fixed it. It could have been a catastrophe, but it went really smooth. Nobody got on each other's nerves. We made it through it. We all knew what each one of us could do. We all knew we couldn't fix it, but we found somebody that could. And I think it was a great example of teamwork, making the phone call, finding the mechanic, all that stuff, you know? And I think we can learn from that in an educational type of thing as well. Back to what, Rick's like, hey, we need to up the look and do this. And Bart, move your camera. I did it. My students like it better. It's about getting your ego, getting yourself out of the way.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I like that.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
And I think back on when I first started teaching drums, and in the very beginning, my very first student, I was 21 years old, and I was in college. And he came to me and I said, look, I've never taught before. I don't know what I'm doing. I'll show you what I know. But I would say within 5 years after that, teaching for 5 years, pretty quickly, I thought I knew everything there was to know. I'm teasing, of course, but I mean, I had my way, and I was like, oh, my way works. I've tried it and it seems pretty good, and blah, blah, blah. And, I knew the books that I knew, and I knew the materials that I knew. And as I went, I kept discovering as I, being a drummer and always curious. And of course the internet came out, and that exploded the sharing of information like crazy. And I was like, I don't know about that. What is that all about? Oh, and I thought I knew about that, but that's actually something about that, thing that I thought I knew that I didn't ever know. The downfall of Paris. I didn't know about that snare drum solo. A linear style playing with Dave Garibaldi. I didn't know about that. And so it's kind of like that forever. Obviously, the more you know, the more you realize how what you don't know, right?
Right.
And boy, it behooves you to always be seeking out more knowledge, more information, a better way of doing what you're doing, and how are you going to find that? But through other people and other resources. So, I've taken lessons as a professional. I know all you guys have too, and every professional I know has taken lessons as a professional, right?
Yes.
It's not
yes.
It's not you reach some point where like, okay, you know everything, you can do everything you need to do, and then you're done. Like that's not the nature of the beast, right? As soon as the horizon keeps receding infinitely.
Yes.
And
well
there's
said.
no end to what you can learn, and getting deeper and deeper into the thing you're into. And that's why another reason why the strength in numbers. You gotta consult people who know more than you do, or deep into this thing that you know not as much about, and it's going to help you be a better player. And you'll never know everything, and that's great, right? But you can be better with the things that turn you on. Rick, you were going to say something?
Well, it has to do with studying this instrument. I have learned so much about the drumming industry and career advice and approach from my drum teachers. And what I started learning is that taking drum lessons just wasn't about playing the instrument.
Yeah.
It's about getting a mentor, getting a friend, getting a colleague who has some experience that you look up to, and then learning from them can be the most rewarding thing. And I have to thank Zorro. When I studied with Zorro, we were working on New Orleans grooves and halftime shuffles, and he'd burn me CDs that have 4 or 5 halftime shuffles. He'd even like cut in, do an edit, and go, "This is Bernard Purdy," and your voice, so I knew who the drummer was. And that planted the seeds for me on how I'm going to teach. That planted how to build a drum groove book series, And then when I had the whole idea of pairing steady beat songs to beats, I ran it by Zorro. And where would I be without that? So it's not just about the physical playing. So
Right.
Bart, what were you going to say? Looked like you had some thoughts on this too.
Oh, it just and well, before I give you my thoughts, nobody has done a better job than you at that, Rick. I mean,
Dude,
just the fact that you
so
had
nice.
the idea to pair a song with a groove and shining example. And I agree with you also, having a mentor. Bissonette once said to me, goes, "Man, it's a lot more than it's not all about one and a two and, man. It's a lot more than that, man." And you know how Greg talks, and,
that's good.
and he's just so excited, and it's like, wow, and he told that same thing. He told that to me after he had told that to Chris Brady, and and it's about people skills. And I think also echoing a little bit of what Jeremy said, maybe this is kind of what you had said, or what I heard. I also think it's really easy to dig your heels in, kind of like you were saying, Jeremy, a little bit like I thought I knew everything because I've been teaching for 5 years, and at that point I'd quit making mistakes, you didn't say that, but I gave up mistakes for Lent,
Yeah, right,
and,
right.
yeah. But we kind of sometimes have this thing that we're doing it right, and we don't seek out knowledge. I remember a while back there was this person that was in the band, and whenever you said something about, oh well, maybe this part is not performed correctly or sung correctly, let's make it better, there was always a stone wall, heels dug in, and the answer was always, well, I'm doing what I've always done.
Right.
And to the credit of the person that was being said to, they didn't go, well, you always have done it really crappy, they just kind of let it go.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. And I think that being a good educator, Jeremy, you hit the nail on the head. It's about always getting better. I mean, I've been, as we all have, I've sat behind a set of drums since I was 5 years old, and I feel like I'm scratching the surface. I'm pretty good at what I do, I'd like to think, but man, I'm sometimes, Rick will play something at the beginning of the show, or Jeremy will play a role, and I'm like, why do I even try? You know what I mean?
Oh.
You kind of get that whole thing where you're like, well, now I am gonna take that thing that I learned from Jeremy, and that thing that I learned from Rick, and that thing I learned from Chip, and I'm gonna hone them into my thing.
Yeah.
And as what Zorro said, it's and Bissonette, it's a lot more about and back to the Rich Redmond thing. It's more about the networking. It's more than the one E and a two E and it's about an idea and how to run with it, and who can help me run with this.
Right.
Yes.
What do you think, Rick? I mean, how you have something you want to say? I can tell.
Yeah.
And so does Chip.
I think Jeremy hit on such a vital piece of this too. It's sort of being humble and being able to say, I have room to grow.
Yeah.
And having that passion. So when you have the passion, like the four of us and many of our audiences and students, if you have that passion and you're just humble about it and you want to continue to grow, the sky's the limit.
Yes.
There's no end to where you can go with anything in your life if you're like a sponge and you're willing to learn. And when a drummer comes to me and says, I'm self-taught, and they're so proud of it, I'm like, usually, well, wow, I'm sorry that you're so limited. I mean, with the exception of my brother-in-law, Gene Hoagland, who's a genius. Yeah, if you start really super young, I know you could take it to a certain degree if that's all you do in your life. that's cool. And I love that. But for most people, I'm just going to figure it out myself. I'm self-taught. And they start making up all these excuses like, oh, if I take lessons, I'm going to start sounding like you. No,
Right.
you're not.
No,
No
you're
matter
not.
how hard you try, you
Right.
are not going to sound like any drummer that you're obsessed with. You're going to be you. You're not going to sound that way. Or they're going to say, oh, I'm going to sound too stiff if I took lessons. It's just all of these just lame excuses.
Yes,
And
excuses.
so
Sorry.
a lot of times you just have to go, hey man, what's your earned income for the year? Where do you want it to be? And then usually it's like, I made $300 this year. Like, well, you might think about applying yourself more because, I know you have the goal of wanting to actually make a career out of this. So, and then just look at, you have to know, you can learn from anybody. You can learn from a student. Look at how much we've all learned from each other over this few year period.
Yeah.
So,
Chip, you had something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say along those lines, you guys are bringing up some great points about this. Being humble or being humbled. I was in 1997, I was a metal drummer in a metal band, and we moved to Seattle and went for the record deal and put all our eggs into one basket, and it kind of failed miserably. And I went back to live with my mother in San Dimas, California, and I put my name in the paper and put an ad out as far as drummer available. And I got a call from a guy, a country band leader on a cruise ship, and he said, what songs are you going to sing when I hire you for my band? I said, I'm a drummer. I don't sing. I play drums. And he goes, well, what songs are you going to sing when I hire you? And I immediately went like, Devil Went Down to Georgia, the chair, and should have been a cowboy. And he goes, okay, all right. And I got the equipment and a monitor and a microphone, and I showed up and I set up on this cruise ship, and it was just this entirely different world of music that I'd never been exposed to before. I always underestimated country music. I always thought it was like a lot easier and more simple than any other music in the world. And boy, was I mistaken. There's so much nuance and feel and touch to all of these country songs. It's just like jazz. It's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
And being on that ship surrounded by other musicians, those were college graduates with masters in performance from North Texas and Berkeley and all these places. And they were like some of the best musicians on the planet on this boat. And being surrounded by them, I was able to contact and talk to them and learn things and expose myself to a different side of the argument, and I became a little more open-minded. And I hung out with this studio drummer, and he told me about this book called Effortless Mastery by Kenny Warner. And I got that book, and it changed my life. And so this whole period of not being humiliated, but being humbled by the talent and the ability of these people and the willingness to share their information, because all it took was a conversation. Hey man, how's it going? How'd you get to that level? How did you get, can you show me some of those rudiments? And we would take our snare drums. Me and the show band drummer would take our snare drums on an off day and take them to the back of the ship, and we'd watch the whales surface and spout while we did our rudiments and shared everything.
Nice.
And
Wow.
it sharpens iron. So it was really a great experience for me and changed my view because of these other people. And like you said, the willingness to learn. Bruce Lee used to wear a white gi, and people asked him why is he wearing a beginner outfit, and he used to say, because he's always a student.
Right.
He's always a student.
Wow.
Cool. I like that a lot. That's all great stuff.
Chip, do you have any photos or video of that?
I got photos. I got a video of me doing a wipeout drum solo running across the bar. And then I got a photo of me with my long hair on an Ensenada by a picture of the rocks. It's pretty cool.
Could you post that? I'd love to see that.
Awesome. I'll find that solo and post it for you.
Oh man, awesome.
That's awesome. That
Oh,
dude, I want to
man.
go sit on the back of a ship and play rudiments and watch whales now.
I know.
Yeah, it's a good experience.
Wow.
Well,
I got
But being open and willing and asking for advice and being willing to listen was
Yeah.
where I got that strength in numbers, you know.
Right. That's
Great,
really
Chip.
cool. You know, I have found, like, across the board, both with me and my travels, and also with my son and his piano playing, that people are generally happy and willing to help when you ask, most of the time. And you know, you might think, oh, you know, they don't want to give away their secrets. You know, it's like, no, like, you got to do the work one way or the other. You
Yep.
know, they're telling you
Yeah.
something isn't going to make you better. It's just going to help you along your path. And even still, you know, even if you, like, you're just going to become the best version of you anyway, right? You're not going to start taking someone else's gig because you're a different player.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, even if all four of us took lessons with all four of us for 5 years and learned, you know, and learned each of us shared our bags of tricks, etc., we would still be very different drummers,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And we'd probably
we
still
would.
be hired for 4 different gigs, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bart.
Two things. Daniel Glass, you know, he posts those little inspirational quotes.
Yeah.
And he's posted something the other day in regards to, you know, even if you practice
Oh, yeah.
all Bonham, you're not going to sound like Bonham. And I put a little thing in there saying, yeah, always be you. And I think that that's so true, to think that way, to always be yourself. If you, like John Bonham or Louis Belson or Zorro or whoever it is that is like your main, I want to play like that person, well, you're going to have to study 20 other people to sound like that person, and you're still not going to sound like them. You know, you're just not. And I want to echo, along with just all of us today have been talking about the subject of strength in numbers. Dom Famularo is such an inspiration, and the guy's been through so much with this cancer and everything lately, but he's still out there swinging and ducking at Dom 2.0. When he was on our show, he was such an inspiration. And one of the things that he always says is, like, you know, take lessons from other drummers and refer other drummers, be friends with other drummers, because you everything that we're saying, you're going to hang on the back of a cruise ship and watch whales and play rudiments. You're going to learn how to work on, you know, flammabarda diddle diddles. You're going to learn how to play the 6-stroke roll using triplets. You're going to learn all these things, and then you're going to have a deck day, and you're going to go out to dinner afterwards and have veggie burgers with each other and enjoy them and have a great time. You're going to enjoy your life, and you're going to have, you know, you're going to get better for it. And it's not going to be easy. It isn't. And this is where I want to sneak this part in. And I'm sure we've all run into this. So this is to any drum student out there who, and if I'm out of line on this, guys, please tell me. Have you ever run into, just yes or no, have you guys ever run into a student that, you know, they want to take lessons, they want to get better, but they're an accomplished drummer, they're in a band, they're out there working, and their ego won't let them their ego won't let them do it?
Oh,
you ever run into that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've run into drummers that refuse to go slower when learning things because of that. Yeah.
Right. And I have one guy that comes and sees the band a lot, and he's a great drummer. He's a fantastic player. And it's like and I don't mean this in a judgmental way. It's like a big hobby for the guy, which is great. That's fantastic. Again, that's an observation. And he always tells me he wants to take some lessons. And so he came over one time and he goes, how much would you charge me for a lesson? He finally did it. And I go, you know what? Just come over. I'll give you a free lesson. We're buds, and we'll see how it goes from there. And he wanted to learn, I want to learn a cool drum fill. Okay, well, let's start with, hey, how about some paradiddles? Okay, I can play a paradiddle, and he could play some paradiddles, but he couldn't maneuver it around the kit. Okay, so I tried to show him a few things, and when he couldn't do it instantly, It was, well, no, show me a cool drum fill. And I'm like, well, I'm
Right.
trying to.
Right.
So what I want to throw out there is to anybody that is maybe afraid to take a drum lesson or afraid to step out there because their ego might get in the way and, oh, I'm too good to take drum lessons. No, you're not, man. Bissonette took lessons with Tony Williams. Neil Peart took lessons with Peter Erskine up until he could not play anymore. He couldn't physically hold the sticks anymore and play. He was arguably the greatest in the world at what he did. And I think to always, again, find your mentor, learn from them. Man sharpens man like steel sharpens steel. I know I'm repeating that, and know that you're in a great place and we're all here to help each other strengthen numbers. Be part of it. Jump in, get your feet wet, but don't be afraid to do the work, because you're going to have to. It's not going to come easy. It just isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Neil Peart took lessons also from Freddie Gruber and studied the flow of his teachings. And Buddy Rich took lessons from Freddie Gruber too.
Right.
The myth that Buddy Rich didn't practice is not entirely true. He practiced and worked with many drummers.
Yes. And also we have to look at other actors and sports and every other skill. Everybody has a mentor. They have a teacher. Tom Brady has a coach.
Right.
Of course. Everybody does it. The list just goes on and on. You're never ever going to find a great actor who doesn't have a coach.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know why sometimes the drums are perceived differently by so many.
Yeah. Good point.
And getting literate with drums, really understanding written music, I think has always been the key. I think that if you're just kind of going by ear, it's gonna be limited. Limited. I have this all the time in here, especially dudes who come in who are over 40. They want to tell me how I'm going to teach them, and they're going to pick a song, just like Bart had the guy who had, hey, show me a cool fill. It's like teach the fish, like that concept.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yeah.
You know, we're not going to start right up there. We're not going to start with Tom Sawyer.
Right.
You know, they're like, but I want a project. I'm like, here's a project for you. Kick, snare, kick, snare. Keep it steady. That's your first project.
Yeah.
Right. It's, this is a slightly different topic than strength in numbers, but when we talk about this kind of ego getting in the way, I think we've all experienced that as teachers. When people, it's like they get enough knowledge and skill to be dangerous, and then they end up hindering themselves because they think they've got more together than they really have got.
Yeah. And if I steered the conversation into that, that's not where I intended it to.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, it was just more like,
it's fine.
Don't be afraid to, because again, strength in numbers. Look, I've learned so much from the three of you guys, and again, our podcast, our little dog and pony show that we do has starting to gain momentum, and what we did before we went on the air today, we're trying to make it better. What can we do to get more viewers? What can we do to help more drummers? And I'm actually looking forward to seeing where we are a year from now, like right at the beginning of next summer. What are we going to have accomplished? What are we going to have done? And we're not going to do it without each other, right? I mean, we're going to accomplish a lot more where, hey, Chip's going to figure out how to do this, and Rick's going to do this, and Jeremy's going to do that, and then I'll throw my 2 cents in and do something over here and see what we can build. That's what it's about, And the same goes for drum lessons. Yeah, Rick, go ahead.
Our planning meeting that we had off air last week was just fantastic, because we started looking at all of the things we could do based on the limited amount of time that we all have.
Right.
And we threw out certain steps, and some of those steps didn't appeal to everybody. Like, ooh, I don't want to do that. That's not my thing. I hate doing that. But then the other person went, you know what? I could do that. That actually sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
So communication is the key there, and like evolving through our strengths and then learning from each other. So everybody ended up, I think, with like little tasks that really fit them that are actually kind of fun rather than this
Yeah.
arduous, oh man, I really don't want to shoot videos or whatever it may
Yeah.
be.
Well, we're
Yeah.
fortunate. We are pretty fortunate that we all have some complementary extracurricular skill sets.
Yes.
Like Bart's really good making the artwork for the shows, etc.
Yes.
But that's just another great example. Yeah, a way to tie it back all together of enlisting help to achieve goals, and they can be win-win for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't isolate. One of the
Yeah.
worst things you can do is isolate yourself and to think, no, I'll be bothering that person or whatever. But one of the biggest things you can do to improve your strength in numbers is to reach out to others. Surround yourself with people who have what you want, and ask them how to get it. Ask for advice. It's amazing to me how much human resources we have at our fingertips, especially in this day and age. It's thinking about Facebook and our Drummers Education Connection group. There's tons of drummers that are willing to answer any questions I have, even if it just put a post up and ask a question in the group. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's free. It's all out there. It's yours for the asking. So don't
Right.
isolate. Don't keep to yourself.
Don't keep to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Back. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
sorry, that was really sort of the impetus behind the Drummers Education Connection to begin with, right? During COVID, we were more isolated, and that
Yes.
all that social interaction that we were used to and taking for granted all of a sudden was taken away, and we're like, oh man, this is a whole different deal. Not being able to see people and go hear music and perform and take lessons in person and all that, and so. That was really the idea that inspired this. Was like a way of bringing people together, bringing knowledge together, sharing experience and wisdom and knowledge, and we're still doing it. And we hope this is of value to you guys. Please let us know if there's stuff you'd like to see on the deck that would be of value to you. That'll be inspiring. People you'd like us to interview, topics you'd like us to discuss. That's really what we're here for. When we interview drummers, it's to bring them on to share their experience with you, with anyone who is curious enough to watch. And that's what we try to do during our roundtable discussions is just, share our wisdom and experience. And with you guys, between us, we have, I think, over 200 years of drumming experience combined.
Yep.
Well, that's a lot of paradiddles,
That
A lot of
is.
paradiddles.
right?
It's a whole
man,
pile of
that's
paradiddles.
hilarious.
A lot. There'd be some double paradiddles in there.
Right.
One of the
Don't
beautiful
don't go
things-
crazy. Let's
Triple
not go nuts.
I'm
Just
a paradiddle.
pump the brakes a little bit there, Jeremy. Come on.
One of the beautiful things about the drumming community that you'll hear again and again, and you'll see, is that we're a very cooperative kind of group. That everybody really likes seeing everyone else succeed, and I think generally that goes for the entire drum community. And it's so wonderful to be part of it. And if you're watching this, you are part of it. So thank you for watching and just share knowledge, and everybody wants to see you successful. So if you do go study, I'm sure your teacher wants to see you successful. If they don't want to see you successful, don't study
Find
with
another
them.
teacher. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
We'll wrap it up here.
Okay, so I want to wrap it up with this. One of the things that Chip had said, don't isolate and don't be afraid to reach out to people. And Chip, I think you hit the nail on the head, bro. I think sometimes people are afraid, right? They're afraid that, I remember the first time I took a lesson with Bissonette, I was petrified. I mean, because he's Greg Bissonette. Well, he's also like He's an amazing drummer, but the guy's like one of the nicest damn guys you will ever meet. And I've
Yeah.
never, in all my years of drumming and taking lessons and studying with drummers, I've never ever called a drummer and they said, screw you, leave me alone. They all want to share their knowledge. So don't be afraid to jump in and ask for help, because again, I think we all understand that. I think we all understand that we need each other to get better. And like you, the two of you guys said, Jeremy and Rick, you know, if you find a drum teacher that just wants to boast about how great they are, and, you know, if you practice real hard one day, you can do this. Well, maybe it's time to, you know, call Rick or Jeremy or Chip, you know, because that's not the way to teach. You know, that's find the person and rely on their strengths to help pull you to where you want to be. I think that's so very important.
Right on. Great stuff, you guys. All really, really excellent points. And thank you for sharing all your wisdom and your experience with us today. That was really, really fun for me. I learned a lot for sure. We will be back next week. And I know we have some exciting interviews coming up. We're not going to announce them just yet, but there's a few people in the pipeline that we're going to get on the show. And feel free to let us know any topics you'd like to hear us discuss. And even if you're not watching live, if you're watching this show on YouTube after the fact or on Facebook after it's been aired, you can still comment in the comments and we will still be able to see them. All right. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks
for
everyone.
watching.
We appreciate it. We love you guys.